So I guess a little bit of good news for Doc Rivers tonight. Yeah, I know they lost to the Indiana Pacers and are out of the playoffs in round one again. I mean, it's, what would you expect coming from Doc Rivers as a head coach, at least at this stage of his career? But I mean, the good news, if you will, is that it was a game 6, not a game 7. Doc Rivers, who has lost 5 consecutive Game 7s from 2015 to 2023, I guess pulled a rabbit out of his hat and decided it was better to just get flat out blown out by the Indiana Pacers tonight. 120-98 was the final. Look, we're going to get straight to the point tonight. And we are going to talk about why the Doc Rivers experiment failed, Milwaukee. That is our topic, North America. Now, look, first things first. Look, when the Milwaukee Bucks lobbed a phone call to Doc Rivers, he should have let it go to voicemail. Doc, do not answer phone calls from unknown numbers. Do not ever answer a phone call from another National Basketball Association team as well, because Doc Rivers, it has been 16 years, 16 long, painful coaching years for you since you've won a NBA title. Look, your basketball career as a head coach at one point was looked at as a rising star in the NBA. Somebody who is going to be one of the great head coaches of all time. And yes, Doc, you have won over 1,100 games in your career. Your winning percentage, at least during the regular season, is .588. Very impressive. You've had a very impressive regular season coaching career, Doc Rivers. You got that one chip with the Boston Celtics, another trip to the NBA Finals, and then it's just been crickets ever since then. Doc Rivers, as a head coach in the National Basketball Association, should be what he was at the start of the season, which was a retired head coach. Now, look, being a coach in the NBA is all about getting your players to actually trust you. And that means not just trusting you, but that also means buying into what you're coaching. And if you can't get your players to trust you and to buy into what you're actually trying to coach, you end up with a mid-season, regular season record this year with the Milwaukee Bucks of 17-19. Now, I know a lot of you Bucks fans are out there. You're going to be like, but we had injuries. And Dame Lillard wasn't happy. Look, that is why you are a head coach getting paid semi-big bucks to come out of retirement to coach the Milwaukee Bucks in the first place, Doc Rivers. 17-19 was a clear reflection that the Milwaukee Bucks team, a team that had actually played significantly better under Adrian Griffin than they played under Doc Rivers. I mean, they played significantly better under the coach that they actually got rid of. I mean, why they got rid of Griffin in the first place is a story that none of us really have any answers to. But I mean, he was like 36-13 as a head coach, and they canned him to bring in Doc Rivers, who went 17-19 and then did what playoff Doc does and lost in the first round of the playoffs. Look, it's as clear as water being wet that Doc Rivers should have stayed retired in his cushy ESPN job as a broadcaster. And that's exactly where Doc Rivers should go. Clearly, the NBA, maybe not the NBA, maybe not the X's and O's of the game, but clearly his ability to connect with his players has gone away. You know, I remember when Mike Shanahan was the head coach of the Denver Broncos. You remember that? They won 2 Super Bowls back to back. And then for Mike Shanahan, for the next 15 years of his career, it was absolutely crickets. In fact, things got so bad that Denver decided to part ways with Mike Shanahan, the coach who 6 years earlier had actually led them to 2 Super Bowls. Or was it the reality of John Elway that actually really led them to 2 Super Bowls? What happened with Shanahan at the end of his career is what should have happened to Doc Rivers. And that is at the very end of his career, Shanahan gets fired by Washington, and then he goes out and he tries to, for the next couple years, get another National Football League head coaching job. The 32 teams in the National Football League, I'm not saying there was any collusion going on here, but the 32 teams in the National Football League did not hire Mike Shanahan, despite the fact that he had won over, his winning percentage as a regular season head coach in the NFL was like 550. I mean, he was a good coach in the National Football League. But just like Doc Rivers, he had lost his ability to communicate with the players of the era of the players in which he was actually coaching. Look, Doc Rivers, once again, knows his basketball. Doc Rivers, I think, is actually a really nice and good guy. But at the end of the day, basketball is about getting your players to buy in and trust you. And after what happened this past summer, the Milwaukee Bucks should have never called up Doc Rivers and put him in this position to begin with. All right, that is it for tonight's Underrated. Hey, listen, if you haven't had a chance, do check out our super cool big sports website at underrated.media. Also, sign up for our newsletter as well. It is really, honestly, one of the best newsletters in the industry. Do check that out when you have a chance. For the Underrated, I am Dave DeBaugh, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing day. Oh, and I almost forgot to say, to the guitar riffs we go.